Got a great panel to break all this down for you and introduce you to this artist. DJ Freeze is a popular DJ with Washington's WKYS FM radio. Brian Jones is a host of his own podcast, Real Spiel. Corey Lancaster is a creative technologist. Let me start here with you.
How you doing?
For people who don't know, who was this young man? What was he about?
Well, Nipsey Hussle, he was the person of the West Coast. He was gang affiliated. He wasn't like a J. Cole, nor was he like Kendrick Lamar. He was somebody who directly related to the streets of the gang culture in America, whether it was the West Coast or the East Coast. But he was also spitting facts on people building up their community, building up their sons, their daughters, loving their wife. And Nipsey Hussle was just a poster child of what a gangster could be after the fact of living wrong in the streets.
Yeah, and kind of like a self-made man, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the way he got into the business, tell people about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was definitely a businessman. I love the fact that when you said he reformed himself from being a gangster, he didn't become a rapper. He became a businessman and a philanthropist first.
Right.
Because I think that legacy is going to last way longer than his music will.
Right.
But if you talk about the way that he got into the industry, he printed 1,000 copies of his own first mixtape, Crenshaw, right, to which Jay-Z bought 100 copies of and used the profits to turn over and start his own record label.
Yeah. What about him as an entrepreneur? Tell me about it. How has he influenced others?
Yeah, I mean, his music really speaks to the grind. So there's a period of entrepreneurship where you're hustling, you're making connections, you're really trying to figure it out. Sometimes you don't know what's next for you. You don't know if this is your passion, but all you know is that you have this burning desire in you to change the world. And his music really speaks to that period of entrepreneurship and then the success after. I remember the Marathon came out when I was a freshman in college. I remember listening to it during finals. I also remember listening to it in my first year of entrepreneurship, and then to see the victory lap come out. So to identify with that period of hustle and then to also identify to making it to the other side. He was definitely a special person.
Okay, let me ask one of those old people questions. What about the words? I mean, he uses the N-word all the time. He comes out hard on women, you know, in terms of how he describes them in some of his lyrics. Explain that to people out here like,
Well, I suppose that's the connector between, you know, sometimes you have to dumb it down for the ignorant or for the young or for the people who were like you when you were 14 through 18, rising onto your adulthood sometimes, and that's just hip hop culture also.
Right.
You got to use these words to communicate to your own people. That's how we get it a lot of the times.
Yeah. And there's something about hip hop, you know, you guys and this artist that says this is ours, okay? Now you want to come here and understand this is fine, but don't expect us to conform just because you do it differently.
But Nipsey also changed. So he started out talking like that, but if you looked at him now, he is glorifying his wife and his children. He's done interviews with Lauren London where he's lifting her up as his wife and his queen and, you know, being a pillar of the black family and really trying to push that narrative. So I think it speaks to human evolution. We're living in a time where, you know, sometimes cancel culture doesn't allow you to grow and change, but Nipsey and his life and what he was becoming really just speaks to that evolution. So
thank you for that. Where do we put this? We like to put things in a box and define it and describe it. We got Tupac, we got Biggie, you know, we've got our other, you know, heroes in the past, and they went out this way. Is this that big?
Well, I know you mentioned J. Cole as him being one of your favorite artists. He's one of my favorite artists as well. And to analogize it to J. Cole, I think that Nipsey represents that cousin. So like J. Cole always talks about his cousin or alludes to him being the greatest influence in his life to getting into the rap game. And I think Nipsey is that cousin who's like that street mentality, who's sort of on that left shoulder guiding you in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that the relationship and correlation between hip hop heads like Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and Nipsey Hussle's death, like those deaths are still unsolved nationally. We have conspiracists who think that same way, but for our generation, me being a 90s baby, I wasn't alive or conscious when Tupac and Biggie were murdered. The only times we've had rappers that were brutally murdered were either due to a robbery or overdose, opium, but this is our first time actually seeing an assassination of a hip-hop assassination.
And unfortunately, black artists are always taken from us. You talk about opiums and things like that. It's usually white artists that are the ones that are
suicide,
taking themselves. Yeah, self-inflicted harm, whereas our artists are usually being taken away from us. And that's, you know, community violence we need to figure out for ourselves.
Okay, does it matter to you? I mean, in terms of motive here, you know, all we know is young guy. He was clearly targeted, according to investigators out there. Is this an old unsettled score? Was this a robbery?
I love this. You know, with this being an assassination, three people were injured in this process. The assassinators got away in the vehicle. We could always, like, consult to the conspirators if this is Dr. Abby kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I would like to let people believe that this is a whole conspiracy, because at the end of the day, it opens up their mind, it opens up their knowledge to go ahead and research what Nipsey Hussle was on the journey of doing. This could also be gangbanging.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the police chief, we should note, says that that meeting, those activities are going to go on and take place. Probably will be bigger than ever, than he could have imagined.
I think his death also speaks to both sides of the equation. When you come from gangs and you come from the streets and you try to get out, there is a piece of that life that never leaves you, and you have to be cognizant of that when you get in and then when you get out. And so I don't know, if the conspirators matter or if it matters the motive. I just know that we can't always have it both ways.
I once wrote that you can get out, but you never get out clean.
Yeah. And that's the reality. That's the reality. That's the lesson that we can take away from it overall.
You guys have been great.
Yeah, I would love to see the end result of all of this.
And let's continue this conversation, okay? Talking about Nipsey Hussle. All right, look him up if you don't know him.